Welcome everyone to the Grassroots Music Venue Innovation CoSTAR Funding Call webinar. I'm going to jump straight into it. We've got people joining, but we've got some housekeeping to cover. We want to get to the main key information. So welcome everyone. My name is Kylie Bryant. I'm Senior Producer at CoSTAR National Lab, and I'm going to run through a quick housekeeping for today's webinar. Today's webinar is being recorded and it will be uploaded to our YouTube channel for others unable to make it today and for you to be able to review. So because of this, we've joined with your cameras off and your microphones muted, and we'll keep this setting during presentations. But when we get to the Q&A discussion point, we'd really love it if you're comfortable to turn your cameras on. We can see you and we can have a more informal discussion where we respond to all your questions. If you are uncomfortable with that, though, you can keep your camera off and you are able to do anonymous questions. If you would prefer, please feel free to post any questions. Ideally, if you could post the questions into the Q&A box. Some people technically have some trouble seeing the Q&A box, but if you can post your questions in Q&A, not the chat, but any general discussion or technical issues, please post those in the chat box. For the best webinar experience, it's probably better if you join on a web browser or the Teams app on your laptop. So if you're on your phone and you can shift over to a laptop, please feel free to just jump off quickly and redo that. But also if you can change your view to speaker view, you'll get the best experience, but everyone can modify their own views, so that's up to you. You can also turn transcription on or off if you need it, and we can also provide transcription at the end of the webinar if you need it. And unless you've notified us in advance, we'll probably remove AI transcription chatbots. Just becomes interruptions in the chat. So, but if you need it for accessibility, please make sure you let us know. We did ask that prior to the webinar. If you think of a question at any point, put it in the chat box, put it in the Q&A box, and we will run through them. So as you think of it, just in case you forget, make sure to put it in the Q&A and we'll answer it at the end. And all slides presented today and a list of any key links will be shared with you after the event. So no need to take notes unless you really need to, but because there'll be a recording and you'll get the slides at the end. So that's it for today. We have on this webinar a wide number of people from our organization. So rather than run through everyone's profiles, here are our key speakers from the CoSTAR National Lab and from the MusicFuture's team in Liverpool. So this call is jointly run in collaboration with MusicFuture's. So the speakers' profiles are there, and we can also send them to you if you need them at the end of the webinar. We also have a wider team across the CoSTAR network that have been involved in bringing this funding opportunity to you. We have extensive expertise and researchers across the network, and there are their profiles there. I also encourage you to look them up, go on the website, but you'll have all their details sent to you as part of the presentation. So in the interest of time, I won't go through everyone one by one, but I do encourage you to look them up on the websites or LinkedIn. So that's all that I wanted to share with you. I'd like to hand over to Will, and Will Saunders, Chief Creative Officer. I believe your title has changed now, Will, but I'll let Will introduce himself and hand over to Will.
Thanks, Kylie. Thanks everyone for signing up for this. I'm the creative head of the CoSTAR National Lab. I'm going to spend a tiny bit of time just giving you a bit of background as to who we are and what we've been set up to do, because the context may help in the way in which I hope many of you are going to approach your application. We're all aware you're here for the money. We're all aware you're here because you want to understand how to submit the very best application you can. But let me start by giving you a tiny bit of explanation that CoSTAR is the largest investment to date in creative industries research and development. It's been set up from an infrastructure fund, and that's important, and I'll explain why in a minute. CoSTAR is a network of labs that exist across the UK. We're the national lab. We're the largest part of the network with regard to overall investment in CoSTAR, but there are a variety of different capabilities. So we have labs in Dundee that specialize in real-time technologies, have a close working relationship with the game sector. We've got a lab in Belfast, Real-Time Lab, which has access to the largest advanced production facilities in Europe when it comes to film and TV. We have a live lab in Yorkshire, sited on Production Park, which is a partnership with the University of York, specialising in live touring. And there's a Foresight lab in London, partnered with Goldsmiths University, which has expertise in foresight, analytics, and so on. CoSTAR as a network has a variety of different mechanisms that allows industry in to apply for funding and engage with the infrastructure that we've been creating. One of the ways is via a program called Enterprise and Commercialization. We run funded programs that allow companies to be part of knowledge exchange, accelerator programs, and that supports formation and growth of highly capable creative technology companies. The other industry access program we operate is called Prototypes and Pilots, and that's funding that supports the development of prototypes and pilots at different technology readiness levels, working specifically to test the infrastructure and the research expertise that we make available. And that's one of the key differentiators between what CoSTAR does and other aspects of research and development funding that you're probably familiar with via things like Creative Catalyst or Innovate UK. CoSTAR is about the value of the infrastructure and the research expertise we make available. So it's the thought is about cash to make something possible, but cash plus expertise to infrastructure and to research. So the prototyping program is about £3.6 million across the duration of the grant. It exists to encourage R&D activity between universities and the creative industries. And as I say, it's there to try and give access to infrastructure and research expertise that might not be available without us. So let me hand over to Pete Woodbridge, who'll give a tiny bit of background on MusicFutures.
Oh, brilliant. Thanks so much, Will. And I'm Pete, so I'm the R&D lead on MusicFutures. So MusicFutures is a new UKRI creative cluster. It's one of two creative clusters that have just been launched recently in the last few months. We're quite new. We're led by University of Liverpool in partnership with Liverpool John Moores and 23 other regional partners, from kind of SMEs to more established businesses. We've got some national partners as well that include UK Music Live, UK IPO, and various kind of multinationals. So our aim really is to bring together academics and industry to co-create R&D and innovation for music businesses, music professionals and musicians. We're based at a really fabulous facility in the ACC Arena in Liverpool. Unfortunately, that's not a small venue, but it is part of the offer of some of the things you can access with us. And just go on to the next slide. And yeah, so we're here to, over the next 5 years, basically to empower businesses, SMEs, help support the development of new products, experiences, workflows, and is innovation in the sector really, as well as attracting investment, looking at things like scale up of businesses, etc., etc. And the focus for us is really to strengthen our kind of local ecosystem and to act as a regional test bed for new ideas and new possibilities, which is why it's so great to be part of this program. So yeah, so we're very much about the Liverpool City region, but obviously keen to make an impact on a wider level as well. So it's really super to be involved in this program. And back over to Will.
Thanks, Pete. So, why are we funding this, right? Our remit is to innovate across the screen and performance sectors. The creative industries have a variety of subsectors within them. Screen and performance is our priority. That covers all sorts of different things, but it definitely covers the future of live music in the UK. And our area of focus has been on grassroots, partly because we already have a network of strong relationships with some of the largest tech companies and largest IP owners. But our experience so far, and this isn't our first rodeo, we've been doing creative industries R&D for over 6 years now in different guises. And we think there's a really, really interesting opportunity if we were to deploy technology sets, infrastructure, cash and research expertise at grassroots level, partly because it's an area that's experiencing a significant area of problems within it, and we can see that the live music sector as a whole is doing very well. But if you look at grassroots, there's a number of venues that have been closing, number of venues in a state of emergency. That progress is being made when it comes to lobbying around levies and various other things. But as far as we're aware, there has not been a loud conversation about the value of technology innovation for that sector. We think that sits within our remit, and that's why we want to do this. And it isn't coming off the back of goodwill. It's coming off the back of significant research that we've undertaken. So to get to this call, we've already done 63 interviews with different people working across the live music sector in the UK. We've turned that into research, and that will be a report that we'll be publishing later in the year. So we have motivation coming from research and coming from our own experience when it comes to why we would like to do technology innovation for the grassroots music sector. Let's talk about what we are funding. So those of you that are used to applying for R&D grants, this is not going to be unfamiliar to you, right? When you go through the submittable portal, you find the application form, this will feel like other forms of innovation application. It shouldn't be alien to you, right? It has been informed by the research. Please read it. Everything you need to know is in the call brief that you must download and read before you start applying. Same goes with the research. Please take a look at it before you apply. We talk about in the brief the importance of this being a shared live experience. What we mean by that is we're looking for something that has elements of portability and scalability within it. And when you think about grassroots music venues, you're looking to reach no fewer than 50 people simultaneously. Some of these are small spaces, some of them are much bigger. You're probably scaling up around 200 plus potentially, right? So when you're thinking and framing your solution, you must frame it around portability, scalability, minimum 50 people at the same time, right? You must also, if you're a company, include in your application a grassroots venue and an artist. Because of the way we're having to deliver our key performance indicators, everything we do is about company growth. But this call cannot succeed without a grassroots venue and an artist being integral to the delivery of this idea. 2 projects will come from anywhere in the UK. CoSTAR is a national enterprise. It's not geographically bound, so you can apply from Dundee or Scotland or Cornwall, and you're going to be eligible to work with us. The only geographically bound aspect of this project is to do with the MusicFuture Award. To be eligible, the lead applicant must come from within the Liverpool City region, and you must be either the artist or the venue must come. All of this information is in the call brief. What are we making available? There is cash funding of up to £40,000 to cover eligible costs. Eligible costs and what we mean by eligible costs is all in the brief. What we're expecting is those costs will include the sorts of things you'd expect to do when you're going to put on a live gig, right? We're not asking that venues make themselves available for free. So we're expecting to see venue hire. We're expecting to see artists' fees. We're expecting to see freelancer or subcontractor fees when you're putting on a gig. You're going to have to need to cover licenses to make sure all the rights, whether that's in a live performance happening in a venue or a virtual performance, right? So all of those things would be included as eligible costs, but it's all in the brief. Access to technical facilities. So we have infrastructure available at the National Lab Future Studio in Egham in Surrey. We also have MusicFuture's resource available in Liverpool, and we're pooling. It's not like one company gets the work in Surrey, and two companies get to work in Surrey, and one gets to work in Liverpool. We are pooling the access that we have to our facilities, and we will be pooling access to researcher expertise. We have considerable amounts of expertise you'll probably want to use. Some of the people are on this call, some are not, because they're operational and working on projects right now. We also have travel stipends available. So if you qualify, and qualification criteria are also on the website, we will cover travel costs if you need your travel costs covered. So to bring some of this infrastructure to life, I'm going to ask Pete Richardson now to explain a little bit more detail what we have available.
Thanks, Will. I'm Peter Richardson from CoSTAR National Lab. So we have a bunch of facilities at physical space and place, first of which is the VPS, Virtual Production Studio, which is a 4-meter virtual production wall with a wild wall, DMX lighting, Moses Unreal workflows, so game engine workflows, and Disguise Designer and Render Stream. That, just to note on that, Disguise powers the Sphere in Las Vegas and various other sort of live venues. So we've got quite a useful mirror to what's absolutely cutting edge within industry at the moment. There's also an ARRI Alexa camera package attached to that as well, should it be needed. One of the things I think is going to be key, there also within the space there's a next gen audio system, which is a ambisonic dome, which is on hydraulics, which can be deployed into the space. It also includes microphones, so we can actually acoustically twin a venue within that space there, which might be quite a key driver for some of the tech partners involved in this. There's also a decent amount of connectivity there available. We're sort of expecting things to include some version of 5G, perhaps 4G connectivity might be key to what you're planning. And we've got a fiber link there as well, which goes via the Janet system. I've got a bunch of other bits of technology which might be of use to people, including LiDAR scanners. We're not expecting these activations to be within VR and AR, although there are VR and AR headsets available should you want to test out a space and a place. And also don't underestimate the use of some flat space, because the studio itself, obviously we're majoring on technology here, but it's also a flat, useful space, flat space for rehearsals. There's a green room and things in there as well. So it's a very versatile offering. And I think something that's equally as important, possibly even more important to some of you, will be the expertise that we've got within the lab. And as Will said earlier, a number of our colleagues are on the call, and those colleagues range from people with very, very specific and internationally renowned careers in performance, in world building, in script writing. We've got people that are working within the Gen AI world. We've got a whole team available to you for audience testing, which we think will be quite an important part of how people react to these in-venue activations that we're likely to be seeing here. A lot of user experience, technical support there, and we have got a really, really useful and very, very skilled, highly skilled group of creative technologists available to this for the majority of the time, the duration of the preparation stage, the activation stage. And they, I'm not listing their expertise there, but they are offering the full range of creative technologies available. also some multi-sensory perception work is available as well. And we have got a business modelling team headed by Mike Lyser, who's on this call at the moment. So if you're looking to get numbers for audiences or anything to do with the development of the business side of this particular set of projects or tools, then there's a team there devoted to that as well. So it's quite a broad team, but it's a T-shaped team, so they've got very, very good grounded technology and expertise across a number of fields, and all available should you require them for part of your proposal. So Pete, over to you.
It's over to me. Hi everybody, I'm Hatana El-John, part of the R&D team, MusicFutures. So as part of MusicFutures and working with the CoSTAR National Lab, we're based across a few different spaces in Liverpool that support creative and technical work in sound, performance and immersive technologies. So our LJMU, the Media Lab, includes XR headsets, a full motion capture system, immersive projection, biosensors and high-spec workstations. So these are ideal for experimentation in spatial media and performance-led research and interactive sound. Over at LIPA, there's access to an 18 camera OptiTrack motion capture studio, which supports real-time performance, movement-based work and audio-visual experimentation. At the ACC Arena, we have a shared studio space that brings together people from music industry, academic staff, postgrad researchers and other creatives. It's not just a workspace, it's a place where ideas can be tested and developed collaboratively. So alongside the facilities, there's also real expertise available, both through CoSTAR and our teams across these spaces. It's not just about having access to the equipment, it's also about being able to develop your ideas with the right kind of support. So that's me.
Thanks, Hatana. Okay, so I hope you're starting to see how what we're doing might be slightly different from other applications you may have made from R&D funding, right? So what we're talking about is it's cash plus access to these resources we're making available, and your application will need to capture that. So it's going to be your idea plus how does this infrastructure and this research expertise enhance your idea. So let's get round to who can apply and the eligibility criteria. All of this is also within the brief. As we've said, both of our institutions are funded against company growth. We must be able to evidence company growth as part of what we do. So the lead application must be an enterprise or legal entity registered and training in the UK, right? That means that freelancers, sole traders cannot lead an application. They can be part of an application, but they cannot lead one. When it comes to grassroots venues, you must have one grassroots venue as part of your application. As part of this work, we have done significant consultation with different venues and organisations that work with venues. We have worked quite closely with the Music Venue Trust. We have been working with them in order to facilitate a list of venues that are already engaged and keen to be a part of bids. That information is also on our website. We're also thinking from our consultation, venues are a proxy for a relationship with artists. Most of the venues we've got work regularly with artists, and we're keen that this is seen as an opportunity for new and emerging artists. Doesn't mean you can't work with others, but that also means that those venues tend to work a lot with those sorts of artists. You must include letters of support so we can see that you have got these key components on board. You must be able to secure all necessary licenses and clearances to cover your idea. Be from or support the screen or performance sectors. That's just a criteria. That just means you must be looking to deliver against our key areas, right? Screen and live performance. Operations and or project team based in the UK. That's obviously because we're funded by the British taxpayer. 75% of no more than 75% of project costs are subcontractors. Some subcontractors can also be from anywhere in the UK, right? We expect this is a sort of area and sector that would probably use freelancers as part of your application. And for the Music Futures Award, the lead applicant must be a Liverpool City region based company, and you must work with either a Liverpool City region based venue or performer. So after eligibility, let's look at assessment criteria. Again, when you go through the submittable form, the questions will be quite clear in terms of what we're looking for. And again, if you've done R&D applications, this won't be alien to you, right? So it's R&D. So we are looking for the problem that your innovation seeks to address and that you've defined that the proposed solution is both clear and achievable. So it's problem plus solution. The specific R&D focus is well articulated. It's R&D. You must tell us what the R&D in this project is. The proposed solution has commercial value with an appropriate route to market. So we are thinking that this can, in some way, get to market at some point. Doesn't mean it can't be low-level TRL, doesn't mean it can't be prototype, doesn't mean it can't be permission to fail, but it must be on the journey, right? The project team has strong leadership and range of skills and experience needed to deliver the project, right? So we need to know who's doing this, and we need to know that they're the right people to get this job done and they have the relevant skills and experience. And you must supply the evidence of support from a grassroots venue and artist. And we're imagining that, and you won't have this at application, but at the point at which you go through this relationship, you must have the necessary frameworks around in place of licensing and rights management. When it comes to IP, we are imagining companies will be sharing and working with foreground IP. It might be they're coming up with a technology solution. They might be they're coming with a specific piece of technology. Our aim at CoSTAR and at Music Futures is to help those companies grow that IP, right? But background IP might be the work of the artist, right? So you will have worked out when you go through this project who's leaving with what IP intact. Your consortia will have worked that out by the time you're working with us. That isn't going to be worked out during the project. We need to know you've had those conversations, right? So the assessment criteria also include the project management plan. So you've got a very clear sense of how you're going to do this. You've shared with us the risks that you think will need to be managed. Again, it comes back to cash plus access to infrastructure and research. So you will be telling us how you're going to be using what we're making available. There's a rationale as to why what we're making available will help progress or accelerate your project. And we also have quite strong and key components around engagement with EDI and social impact. We have two companies we now collaborate with in order to ensure everybody that goes to our program has access to courses we're now making available, and Inclusioneering run an EDI kind of action plan for companies, and Albert will be working with on environmental sustainability. You need to show what level of literacy you already have in these areas so that we can scope what we offer accordingly. But we are going to ask all awarded companies engage strongly with our social impact agenda. So those are our assessment criteria. I'm going to get Kylie now to pick up on the very specific aspects of how you're going to apply.
Thanks, Will. So just letting everyone know that you will need to register with Submittable, which is our application portal, to apply. It's pretty simple, and we can provide accessibility support if you do need that. So do let us know. But before you go to Submittable, all of the information is really on the website and in the full call brief. But just to let you know, there are 11 questions. They each have a 500-word limit. Don't feel compelled to use the maximum amount of words. That's actually a pretty solid amount of words, and we do want to balance how much time you spend on your application, and try to provide the key points in a key overview. That even includes budget. There are no opportunities to upload budgets and project plans. The only thing that we ask you to upload is your letters of support from the partnerships organizations. So given that this is an XR company, a musician and venue, it's just that you're all agreeing to work together. Those are the only things that we ask you to upload. So we're definitely trying for you to balance the time that you spend on this, as well as putting through the key information. And I know that's always hard in applications. We do offer reasonable adjustments if you need them. I will put a link to this in the chat for our page on support around applying, and also support around participation if you were successful. So there's more detailed information on that. And we'll talk to you about feedback, but individual feedback is challenging, but we do really try to provide feedback about the call and applications more broadly, because we realize this is key for people moving forward. So that is something we'll follow up with at the end. And I'll just move through to the key timeline. It's open now. You've got 6 weeks to apply. We're aware that this is coming across summer, and if there's any huge challenges, please let us know. But we've tried to market it as broadly and as detailed as we can, so that we can get companies in before the end of the year and then into venues in January. So the call will close on the 26th of August, and then we have I've got 2 lots of 4 weeks there, but if you just think of assessment really as an 8-week period, you'll be notified by the end of October. So that is from the September, October, we will be doing assessment, and then in November, you will be ready to go. So please make sure that November and early December is feasible for you to start doing some testing in our labs and in your own business, with the idea that you would then do further sort of testing within your venues in January or February. We've done this timing to coincide with when venues told us that they had more time availability. Obviously, before Christmas they don't, but early in the new year they do. So that's based around that. And then we're starting to get a lot of questions, so I'm going to move on to the questions section, because this is really the most important part. So I'm going to open up the floor to questions, and we've already got a couple. So I'm going to start to ask those questions of our panel. And please, I would love it now. I will make it available for you to be able to turn your own cameras on. We'll stop sharing for a moment so we can see participants. If you feel free to turn your camera on and ask your question. Nathan, are you there? Would you be able to ask your question? And can we stop sharing the presentation, please? Or I can do that myself. Thank you. And just sorry, I'm talking to our tech team who are running the webinar. If we can make it possible for people to turn on their own cameras now.
Yeah.
And so you should be able to turn on your camera. Thank you. And Nathan, are you there? Are you able to ask your question? Would you like me to ask it for you?
No, I'm here if you can hear me.
Yes, we can. Thank you.
If a venue itself has an idea of a project that would meet the aims, that means it can do it directly, would that be possible rather than working with a tech partner that it believes with? Or if it was working with a tech partner, could the venue be the lead on this?
Shall I start and then I'll throw to a few other people? Nathan, I think it is perfectly feasible for a venue to be the lead applicant for this call. All I would ask is, if you've never applied for R&D funding before, make sure you are talking to people who have. Because if you look at the questions and you look at the way that this is structured, it is done in such a way that it is very, very specifically asking about what is the research and development angle of this project and how will you achieve that. To do that in a competition, you need to kind of know, and I think have either some experience or be talking to people who have had experience in that landscape. So it's one of those questions, one of those things where, yes, of course, and there are some amazing venues that do so much interesting and innovative work. But if you're not familiar with the grammar and landscape of R&D applications and you are the lead applicant, make sure you're talking to somebody who is, right? And there are amazing people out there. So I think Innovate UK have a creative industries team that may be able to give you guidance. That look them up. They're run by a brilliant woman called Emma Cooper, right? So yes, you can, but please, once you've read all of the brief and looked at submittable, all the questions, make sure you're confident in knowing what this R&D application is actually all about. Pete, is there anything you'd like to add to that, or Hatana, anything you want to add?
Yeah, I think that covers it really. Obviously, being aware that this is about creating sort of scalable solutions as well. So some of the things that might be associated with scaling a product across a market may be new to the team, but certainly we know several venues that would have that kind of internal kind of capability to do a lot of interesting things here. So yeah, and what Will said with just seeing about how to apply. Cool.
Fantastic. I hope that's answered your question, but do follow up with us if there's anything further you would want to add. Richard, would you mind asking your question about joining the partner list?
Yep. Basically, how do we join? Because I had a quick, how do we join the partner list? Because I only heard about this project via an email last week. So
you're a venue, Richard, are you?
Yeah, we're a venue based in Birmingham, grassroots, part of the Music Venues Trust, probably 50 to 100 capacity, and work with lots of experimental artists who, so obviously, hopefully, we're the ideal one to work with a company, but it's finding how do we join the list and show we're interested.
Are you okay if I answer that, Will?
I think to be fair, Kylie, do you want to, like, we can get details after the call, we can get we can add you, no problem. But Kylie, do you want to add anything to that?
I was just going to say we're just updating it at interval periods, and our next update will be on the 11th. But if we're going to post our email address in the chat, and please email us, and then we'll make sure you're updated as soon as we do the next update. Thank you.
Brilliant, thank you.
Richard, if you're looking for companies to work with, the organisation I know in your area is called Create Central. I don't know if you know of Create Central.
Yeah.
But I would reach out to Create Central. I'll do it as well, but make sure the team running Create Central know that this competition is live. You're a venue, you want to apply, or you'd like, and they may have, because I know we've worked with them, there are a handful, well, there's a load of brilliant companies in that region that may want to work with you. We'll try and let Create Central know, but you do it as well.
Yeah.
And if there's anybody else we can think of that might be of interest to you, we'll try and flag potential people you might want to talk to. Yeah.
Yeah. Brilliant. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Damien, are you there? Would you mind asking your question? Otherwise, I'm happy to ask it for you, but lovely to hear from you.
No, that's fine, Kylie. Yeah, I think I may have missed the first couple of minutes, but Will, you mentioned that there was some research available that you recommended we all familiarise ourselves with. Is there a link to that?
Yeah, it's on the call brief, and
Okay.
I don't know if Pete or Claude, you want to add to that? We've done 63 interviews with different people working across the live music sector. What we learned from that research is informing this call, and we'll publish the research in a much fuller form in a month or two. Claude, Peter, do you want to add anything to that about the research?
Yeah, sure. Hi, Damien. We've got the exec summary in it, which we've got already is sat there in the pack. So have a look through that. That gives you the sort of major points of pain, we're calling them. There's the report itself will be published towards the end of this year. So I can't really give you any other insights other than that, but the majority of what we know and understand so far from it is there in that exec summary. Okay. And we'll just watch. I mean, you look at Will's blog, there's a couple of little nuggets in Will's blogs and things, but that full report will be published properly, I think towards September, October time.
Okay, great.
And could I just clarify? So there's research available. I've put a link in the chat. That's the exec summary that Damien's asking about. Some people also ask about the research expertise that both Peter and Pete and Hatana referred to. In terms of those, and obviously you've seen the profiles of people in our presentation that I mentioned. In terms of research expertise, we do sort of generalize that around skill sets rather than people. So when you're applying, say, I'd like to have audience insight research expertise or those types of research expertise rather than perhaps naming particular researchers on your application. Look for the general research expertise that are available across MusicFutures and CoSTAR. So that's expertise versus the research we conducted. Both those two things are available for you.
Can I build on that a little bit, Kylie, and just go, look, I think we've said it a few times, right? It's cash plus access to infrastructure and people, right? Your application will articulate what you're bringing, what you're going to spend your cash on, plus how you're going to use the research and the research available and the infrastructure available. If you have any questions about what is the research and infrastructure in more detail, contact us, right? We have an email address. We will try and get back to you on any specific questions you have. But I think we've given you enough information on the brief for you to see. I would use user experience like this. I would use business modeling like this. I would use your technical facilities like this. But don't be shy about flagging what we're not making available. Tell us what we're missing. Go, I need this. I might want somebody to help me with this, right? So I think it's just slightly different in the way that applications are normally configured, in that you need to tell us not just what you're going to do with the 40 grand, but what you're going to do with the people and the infrastructure, right? So if you're not 100% certain on what they are, just contact us, right? And we will try and help you with regard to that. But hopefully the brief gives you enough information for you to go, here's how I use what you're making available.
And there's one related question I'm going to jump to, and then I'll come back to some of the others because it's similar in this vein. How can I, or well, would you like to ask your question, Victoria, or are you happy for me to do so? Are you there, Victoria?
Hi, yeah, I'm here. Yeah, it was, to be honest, kind of just going around what Will said there. So in our particular case, we're building a tech product very much from industry. So our tech expertise isn't within our company. We have an external company who's kind of building it for us. So it was very much just confirming that we can rely on you guys to guide us on the tech side of stuff. We can give our idea and how we think it would work through our limited knowledge in tech, and have your team kind of help develop that out for us?
It depends. Are you a venue, Victoria?
No, sort of ish. We work with venues, we're promoters, we are very kind of just involved in lots of different things.
So our kind of, I suppose, like expertise is we would have some aspect of this that is kind of hands-on operational stuff. And I'll point to Pete in a minute because he's kind of a creative technologist as well in terms of his expertise. But I imagine you'd have a makeup of people, some of whom are operational, right? Some of whom are going to get very hands-on in, here's how I'm going to make connectivity work for you. Here's how my kind of user experience or mobile development skills will help you. And then there's going to be people who have really brilliant kind of research skills in things like audiences. So they'll be trying to work with you on what do you want audiences to understand about this, and how do we test when we're going in front of audiences, because we'll be doing a lot of testing. That's how the kind of research team will work with you on this. But they're not going to come up with the idea. The technology innovation must come from you, right? It must come as part of the application. So whatever you're applying, yes, we can help you to some extent either operationalize it, or we can build all sorts of research expertise on top of it. But you must come with the innovation idea. And it sounds like you're working with a company already. So you know, there's nothing that would stop you from saying you and another company could come together on this, right? So you might want to use them and then ask us, how do you build on top? Because that's how you're going to make best value of the 40 grand. Because you might, you don't want to double up on two people doing the same job sort of thing. Pete, is there anything from Liverpool's perspective on this?
Yeah, obviously, sort of depends on what it is, but obviously you need to sort of make sure that that capability is within the kind of remit. And I was going to make the same suggestion. Yeah, as long as you're sitting within the right subcontracting terms in the grant, that having that company that you work with could be appropriate for this one as well. So yeah, definitely. So yeah, just making sure that's sort of covered either within the CoSTAR MusicFutures team or your team, basically.
Yeah, brilliant. That all makes sense. Thanks very much.
Thank you. And Jake, are you there? You've got a good question about venue size. Perhaps not. I'm just going to ask.
Sorry, that was my fault. It was a quick question just about whether there was a preference in terms of venue size, because I was just interested in the definition of venue. I can see that Music Venue Trust breaks it down to 3 different sizes. So whether there was a preference, or you look at a particular focus on a size of venue.
I think we're agnostic, to be honest with you. I think as long as we're falling within the terms MVT, say here's our kind of definition, I think we're agnostic. I think the key point would be, if you are not, I don't mean small, 50 isn't necessarily small, 6 is small. If any of us have done multiple kind of project with VR headsets and we're trying to get everyone to experience the same thing at the same time, right? I would go, if you go small, 50s might be, just show and evidence how it scales, right? How it scales is a key thing for us. You don't have to then go, we're going for 1,000-seater, because, or whatever the capacity would be, but because obviously cost, you may make more efficiencies in going small, and it might be how you get maximum bang for your buck. I don't think we should say the more people you can get this in front of, the better the application is. That's not the thinking here. The thinking is all about R&D, and how innovative and clever is what you're presenting, and how potentially how much does this actually help solve real world problems. So I think we're agnostic, to be honest with you. Pete, Hatana, do you have any perspective on this as well?
Same really.
Right, thank you.
And Sasha, you've got a good question about eligibility. Are you there? Otherwise, I'm happy to read. Yes, great.
Hello.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Thank you very much for the insights and the help today. Yes, so we are a UK registered company with a co-founder located in the USA, who's actually very important for the credibility of the company because he's the former head of products of a brand called Mackie, which is very well known in the audio industry. So does the fact that we have employees, so to speak, or founders outside of the UK, does that preclude eligibility, or are we okay? Are we still eligible as long as we are registered in the UK?
I think as long as you're registered in the UK and as long as the majority the project work is happening in the UK and the beneficiaries are inside the UK, you're probably fine. That's my view. If you've got any questions, pop us emails and we'll try and be more specific on the thing so you have, you know, a surety.
Marvelous.
Hey, Hatana, is that okay with you?
Yeah, that's all good.
Fantastic. There's a really good question from Adrian about IP. We regularly get this question, so I'd really love it if you could read it out, Adrian, or ask us, but otherwise I'm happy to read it out. Are you there, Adrian? So the question regarding IP is, you say that we have access to people, but in the summary of key terms, it is stated that whatever is going to be created during the collaboration between us is going to be yours, as in CoSTAR. So can you clarify? And it said, can these terms be negotiated? Because it's a process where I myself may come up with an invention or discovery in the process. I'm just going to make sure I've captured everything. You know, what if I come up with something in the process?
There are two things that exist within currently the summary of key terms that companies have flagged to us. And this is one of them. It's an IP reversion, which let me get to the back end of your question, which is, yes, when you get to contract, you can enter into a negotiation around what we have in that. We're flagging terms as a way of, so there's transparency around what we're planning to do, so companies can see this at point of application. But the IP reversion is primarily based on the desire to see things commercialized within a specific time frame. It's not that we're looking to revert or retain IP once you've developed it. Our aim is to help companies grow and develop their own IP. But in order, we need to see you have the ambition to commercialize. We need to know you're thinking about how quickly you're going to be able to turn this into commercial product. That's why that clause exists. It's about trying to say, please, can you make sure we can see your intent to commercialize within a specific time frame. If you can't do that, the IP reversion clause could potentially kick in. But I would suggest this is a conversation. It's not a kind of like hammer down there. We will talk to companies about it. The other thing that I wanted to flag is there is a clause that also says beyond a certain level of net sales, which I think is over about $500,000, right? We would ask that there's a royalty payment that is made payable back to CoSTAR that covers the original grant award. So that's 40,000 in this case. The aim with that is also just to ensure that if any idea that emerges from CoSTAR is a big success, and we want them to be big successes, that there's the opportunity to get back some of that original investment CoSTAR has made to simply put into more projects that we can fund. And those are the two things that we have had pushback on. And I would suggest if either of those is a blocker to anyone wanting to apply, you simply contact us and we will end up in a conversation, I think, around point of contract, around either clarifying or how we can make this in a way that companies will want to apply. Our whole desire is to help grow companies. We're not looking at anything that we put forward to be a blocker for growth.
And just on that point, there has been some questions about the amount of funding. Some people missed it. So how many grants, how much per grant is being made? Could you just reiterate that again?
So we're looking to make 3 awards. Each has a cash value of £40,000. So those are what you can apply for eligible costs. The value to the infrastructure and the research teams is in excess of £100,000 for each project. If you were to cost up the value of our studio time and the people that we're making available at no cost to the applicants, then you'd end up with a figure of around £100,000. But as no company's going to be a recipient of that cash, we try and keep it separate. So it's, here's the cash you will get in order to spend, and here's the access to the infrastructure and the people. And that we try and put a value around based on rate cards, based on cost of access to commercial studios, all those sorts of things. And that's how we arrive at that overall figure.
And Patrick's asked about the sort of relative competitiveness of the call. The 3 awardees is pretty good. It's not just one, which we've had in different funding calls. This is our 5th funding call, and we've had varying degrees of application size. It's very hard, as we're quite new, to know whether we're going to get lots of applications, and all our funding calls have been very unique and different. So it's quite hard to speak to the competitiveness, but it is a challenge to bring partnerships together in this context. I would say it's a relatively good competitive call.
I would say we're new, as in, if you're Innovate UK and you're putting this out, you're going to get a lot of applications because Innovate UK is so widely known. We're relatively new. So I don't know if I can share numbers. I think our first call with Live Lab, somewhere around 60 applications potentially, I think, maybe more. But they weren't asking what we're asking for. So we're saying letters of intent. Sometimes letters of support for an application process can be a barrier. People either won't do them or struggle to get them. So that might bring down the level of applications we get. We don't know. But I would say you're probably at an advantage because we're new, right? And we're not going to necessarily attract the same volume that other much more well-known and been out there for a long time funders. So that's me going, everyone here who's interested, you should really try and apply. Also, not just because, you never know what may come from doing these applications. We will not just be doing access based on winning competitions. We'll be doing access based on companies just talking to us about stuff. So we're around for another 5 years. We're the largest creative industries R&D investment in the UK so far. I would advise it's about getting relationships going as well as just putting in applications for cash, because there may be other things we're able to help you with once we know who you are, right? So there's my shorthand.
Amazing. And Sasha, you've had a really good question about funding as well, and the grant being self-contained or having matched funding. Are you there? Would you be able to ask your question?
So it's a kind of continuation maybe of the preceding questions. Sorry, did you say that the 40K is per project, or that it would be divided between 3 of the?
No, it's per project. It's per project.
Okay. So with that in mind, should the CoSTAR grant be fully self-contained? As in, should we do one thing that's a self-contained project, or can it be a sort of clicking with wider funding that we may get? Or am I making sense? Yeah.
Yes, you are. I think you're articulating what is the value of leverage, and sort of, can you evidence in leverage within your application? Is that positive? Yes, of course it's positive. Okay. I would say then, if you can evidence the leverage you're bringing, articulate in what way it's coming to us. So leverage can often come with its access to people who aren't being charged, it's access to certain facilities that we'd be able to put a figure on. It's sometimes cash. It's like with your 40,000, we will match it because of this, and we'll make a project that's much bigger. That is brilliantly useful information to have. Okay. We're one of those organisations currently that thinks this is a nice to have. It's not essential. A lot of R&D funding, you must evidence it. With this, at this point, because again, we're early in our journey, I think if you can evidence it, it would be great to have. But because we're really keen to support grassroots venues, it's not something we're imagining a lot of people will be able to bring to the party. But if you have it, it's a definite plus, yes.
Okay. And when it comes to the value of the people and facilities that you are providing, I haven't looked at all the documents of the application yet. Is that detailed precisely enough for us to understand, oh yeah, they already have a programmer or they already have a whatever else that we may need for this project?
I think it should be sufficient to do an application, but if you have any questions about, do you mean this or do you mean that? I don't want to double up. I've got this person I would cost against my 40,000. I need to know if that's going to come from you in another way. Right? Those sorts of questions, email us if you want to get specific on stuff, and we'll do all we can to try and help you as you put that application together. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you.
And could I just emphasize when you're writing your application or anyone's writing their application, to clarify the difference between, because we talk about scalability, for example, you might, and what you've referenced there is perhaps a larger project or larger vision for what you're doing. You may want to reference that, but make sure that you are very specific that this budget meets the 40,000 budget and the time frame meets the sort of time frame that we're proposing through to sort of February next year. If you've got a longer plan beyond February, that you separate that bit of information. It's challenging for our assessors not to think that your scope is so wide it's beyond the scope and budget of what we are offering. So you need to sort of describe them as two separate parts. Does that make sense? Would you agree with that, Will?
Yeah.
Okay. And Andrea, you've got a really great question about the growth criteria and sort of the difference between emerging artists and sort of popular artists and things like that. Are you there to ask your question?
Yeah. Can you hear me okay?
Yes. Go ahead.
Really appreciate. Can you hear me fine? Am I speaking now?
Yeah.
Yeah. Could you elaborate a little bit about what exactly you mean by new and emerging artists? Because obviously when you think about the critical state of affairs in grassroots live music, you immediately kind of think, well, is there a way to kind of start to give more access to larger names there and bring people into those venues? So I just wanted to know a little bit more about the thinking behind new and emerging, and also everything that you've said about like the list of venues and the way the visual graphics are on the application makes me think it's the new Dua Lipa you're after, or like how important is it to discover that person?
Okay.
Is it? I mean, it's feasible to try to do that.
I would argue, in the way that where we could, I think, reasonably prescribe, we have, right? And that's about what is a grassroots music venue, which the Music Venue Trust have kind of given you a set of guidelines to work within. I think the whole point about artists is I think we should try to be as open to the ideas applications bring to us, right? But, and this is something where I kind of put what's new and emerging. To me, the research we've done, and we've done workshops with people to kind of help get a lot of ideation together. I would argue what we're talking about is a set of technologies and a way of thinking about how performance is changing that means the generation that are going to be most directly affected by what's happening in this landscape are probably the 18 to 30. The idea of people who are starting out on their careers are probably the people who will have to understand how to integrate technologies and what the implications of working with AI in ethical ways are going to be to their futures, to how they're making a living. Anecdotally, one of the people who came to us when we were workshopping was a young performer who's, I think, 22 or 23 years old, essentially manages to make a living almost entirely by generating social media content, not by performing live. And that sort of performer is the sort of performer who will probably we would most be able to help in some ways, right? And it's also most interesting in some ways as well, because that performer's audience and that performer's way of understanding, if it's social media first, is something where you're kind of going, well, that's also a really interesting area when you're thinking about what the future of performance will inevitably become. But that doesn't rule out another performer who could be have a really great portfolio of work, who's fascinated by the way in which technology might support their growth. I wouldn't prescribe, and I wouldn't say somebody bringing us a famous name is a huge plus. It would be great, but it's not. It's what we're looking for is the opportunity to solve problems and the opportunity to help growth. And I think we should be open in terms of who we're saying we want to see in your applications. But my instinct on this, and I'm not an assessor, right? We have independent assessors bringing the ideas to a shortlist. But I think the generation that I think we're wanting to support most are those who are going to want to forge their careers in this area and who are probably starting out and trying to understand, how does all of this stuff help me make a living in the area that I really want to make a living, which will be live music.
Yeah.
Pete, Hatana, or anyone else? Does anyone else have perspectives on this that's on the panel?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's open to sort of any suggestions in terms of who those artists be, but yeah, given that sort of context, I think around young audiences and the changes of where music's getting discovered these days and things, I think that's probably like at top of the mind in terms of the thinking, really. But yeah, can see and understand how there could be ways to embrace more established artists in an argument around this as well, potentially. So that's interesting too.
The problem solving is around those young performers who might have a big social, I mean, from what you're saying, well, who might have a big social media following, but it is really hard to break into live music. There's a whole bunch of barriers around that. And so that's an interesting way to look at it. Peter,
and I'd say it's genre agnostic as well, right? So this could be about DJ culture. It could be about lots of different things. I don't think there's any genre or area that we're also saying, it should be as broad as it needs to be.
Genre within popular music, though, not classical, no audience interaction. Do you know what I mean? So
I would still
popular music.
That if you get an amazing application that pertains to classical music or jazz, I think we should be open to everything, personally. Peter, did you want to add something?
No, just that I think it should be as open and as broad as possible. So if you've got some eclectic sort of new emerging in whatever field, I think they're most valuable and welcome on our journey. I
always think of David Hockney. This won't be for every venue and it won't be for every artist, but some artists, and he's obviously a painter, not a musician, but I would love to see the David Hockney musician version. He totally reinvigorated himself with his digital approach to art, and that could be the same for an older musician performer as well. I don't think it necessarily needs to be specifically someone young, but it just sort of speaks to someone who's really engaged. Not every venue or every artist will want to go down this path, but some will. Sorry, we've got another question, Victoria, about which I think is really important. Are you there to ask your question?
Yeah, sorry, this just came to us as well. Because we're already building.
Oh, we've lost you.
Be a specific chargeable part of it, but obviously it would help, obviously the grassroots sector, but also kind of make it more appealing. So would therefore have growth and raise further revenues and all the rest of it. But this wouldn't be a specific thing you would charge for. Is that okay?
I missed the top of your question because your call broke up. So sorry. Can you repeat it?
Apologies. Yeah. So we're already building this tech product. That part of that would be chargeable. This would have added value to that, but it wouldn't be chargeable in its own right. However, it would obviously make it a much more attractive proposal, like for our original product. Is that all right?
I think the challenge you're going to have to articulate is what is the R&D that this project is funding that enhances the product that you are developing, right? So the 40 grand is R&D investment. What is it that you're going to do that makes your project you're applying for R&D? And then how does that R&D help you develop a better product? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So
but it's okay that it's not chargeable. This specific thing wouldn't be chargeable.
Sorry, the whatever you're developing, we would say the way in which we test, and we test ideally between November to Christmas in a studio-like environment or somewhere where we're essentially using our research expertise and infrastructure to help you develop the thing. In January and February, we're expecting the pilots to go out into the ether and be tested in the wild. Now, that could mean a variety of scenarios. Could mean a live venue performance inside a venue. Could mean a virtual performance on a platform or something like that. At that point, we're saying you can charge for tickets. You can charge people to come to this event, but you can't make a profit. That means you can cover costs of putting your pilot on. So a venue could, cover staffing and everything else, but neither lead applicant or venue or artist can make a profit on this. You can only recover the costs of putting the thing on. Is that helpful?
Sorry, I've definitely not been clear in what I'm asking.
Sorry.
It's more that the R&D for what I would want to do with this project, if that came to fruition and it became a product and we could integrate it into what we're building, it wouldn't be something that we would charge for. It would just enhance the value of our product that's already going to be kind of going out there. So is that okay? Because I know this is about kind of obviously making something that's going to be like, raise lots of money.
You have to evidence in your application how it helps you as a company grow, even if the thing product you're making is not necessarily something you're instantly commoditizing. So what you're going to have to show is this helps us grow as a company by X, Y, and Z, even if you're not charging for the service. Does that it's put that information in the application?
Okay, fabulous, great, thank you so much. Sorry, I wasn't clear as well.
That's all right.
It's very tricky and it's very nuanced. And as Will said, do email us. We've put that email in the chat again for you to follow up with. I just wanted to add that you can on our system do 2 separate applications. If it's the same idea but in 2 different locations, I wouldn't consider that 2 separate applications, and you might want to think if you are doing it in 2 or 3 venues, that you just start with one venue within the scope of this application but demonstrate that it can go to other venues. You just have to make sure if you're including multiple venues that it's feasible within the £40,000 budget. However, if you had 2 completely different ideas, technical approaches, and you think both are really interesting, one's with a musician in Scotland and it's a new type of technology for venues that may go across the UK in a specific way, but you've also got another genre or musicians and you want to play, you can apply more than once in that regard. But just trying to clarify what 2 separate applications would look like. They're 2 different concepts. And I just wanted to clarify that. And if you're considering multiple venues and multiple artists within your application, remember that your budget does need to cover that. And we don't want to see too much sort of unpaid or sort of that kind of thing within your project that you're pitching. So you might want to say, well, at this stage, we'll just do this much, and it could be scalable in the future. I hope that makes sense. Am I clear, Will, on what I'm trying to say around that?
Yeah, I think it's fine.
Great. I think we're coming to the end a little bit early because we've had a lot of questions. We did say we could go through to 2 o'clock if we needed to, but I think we've covered all our questions. I think just bringing it back, Hatana, Peter, Pete, and Will, to the exciting part of this. It is really, I just think it's going to be great, and there's going to be some really interesting applications and ideas. We're really here because we believe in the UK grassroots music industry and venues. So just want to bring it back to that before we go.
Okay. And can I reiterate, these events that we host are all about trying to answer your questions. If we haven't answered your questions, if you have anything else that you were really keen we help you answer before you put your application together, the most important thing is please download the brief, read all of the information. If you haven't, set up an account on Submittable so you can run through the questions 1 to 11. You can see them all. Once you've seen them all, you can write them down and like work offline, and then go back into the system when you're ready to complete your application. You have until the 26th of August to complete your application. If you have anything else that is a burning, what do I, you can contact us, right? We will do all we can to help. We may be slightly slower in responding because it is the summer holidays, but we will do everything we can to get back to you. We're not, going to say over to you and not respond because this is new. What we're putting forward is difficult for a lot of people in terms of how to make best use of the infrastructure and the research expertise. Ask us questions. We will do everything we can to help you. We want to see the very best applications we possibly can. We have independent assessors who are working on this, who will assess, who have experience working in the live music sector and working with emerging tech. So our job is to help you make the best application you possibly can. So please take advantage of that, but don't contact us if you haven't already read, downloaded, and done everything I've said. If you do that, we'll just get upset. All right.
Adrian, you had a question. I saw you put your hand up. Oh, we might have lost Adrian.
Yeah, I asked in the Q&A, but anyway, I will speak out loud. Is there a timeline of someone responding to the emails sent to you, like 3 days, 1 week? Like, in how much time should we expect an answer?
I would say within a 3-day turnaround. It would be no longer than 5 working days, but we would try to get back to you within 3 days.
Okay, thank you.
And I also wanted to add in regards to someone has asked us if we could please send a PDF of the questions, and we will do that because we understand sometimes you need to read through them and think about them offline, but you can start your Submittable and go back into it at any point. The other good thing about Submittable is multiple people can work on the application at one time. So if you're doing one question like the budget and someone else is doing the scope or the technical aspects, you can all log into that application and have different people in your team answering different questions. So that is also possible within Submittable. So there's different ways that people work. Some people work offline and then enter it all in at the end, but you can just work in there iteratively. We haven't had any problems with that. And sometimes people have accidentally submitted and hit submit instead of save. We can reopen it. Don't panic if you've accidentally submitted and you're 2 weeks out and you're like, no, we need to add to that. We're not going to say it's too late. We can reverse it back so that you can add to it. So it's been working pretty well for us so far. I hope that's covered everything, everyone. It's lovely to have so many of you here. I know we've had a lot of interest, but there's also a lot of questions. So I hope we've got a little bit further of the way of answering those. Really looking forward to seeing your applications. Peter and the Music Futures team, any last words from you and Hatana? Hatana, over to you, I think, is for the last words. I definitely think Peter's pointing to your square.
Just I would probably reiterate what Will said earlier on, just making sure that you read everything first, and give yourself plenty of time to soak and do the research around R&D. The R&D part is really important. So asking questions, but also doing that research and contacting, say, like the UKRI earlier on, and making sure that, you know, it is that, and you understand. So not to sort of feel like you're alone with it. But reading the document, taking time, and not rushing it last minute, because I think that's the hardest bit, rushing it last minute. You know, there is plenty of time to put the application in. So yeah, that's my reiteration for you.
Thank you so much. So I think we'll draw the webinar to a close there. Lovely to see everyone. Look forward to working with you, and look forward to many interesting and engaging applications. We're very excited.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.